Welcome to the Fear and Greed Business Interview. I'm Sean Aylmer. We already know small business owners are resilient, but new data reveals the lengths SMEs are going to get through the cost of living crisis. The MYOB Business Monitor shows rising costs and less spending have forced 1 in 5 small business owners to reduce their income, in some cases to nothing. But there's still optimism out there, particularly in newer businesses, and there are always strategies and resources available to help. Paul Robson is the Chief Executive Officer of MYOB, which is a great supporter of this podcast. Paul, welcome to Fear and Greed.
Sean, thank you so much for having me.
So MYOB releases the Business Monitor twice a year, giving a pretty good read on the changing mood of Australian SMEs. Firstly, just how significant is the cost of living crisis?
Yeah, so again, Sean, thanks for having us. And we do this report a couple of times a year. And it's a really important report, I think, because we're in a very unique position at MYOB in the large breadth of our customers allow us to see movement of kind of finances and money and employment and payroll and employees that are onboarding through a very significant part of the Australian and New Zealand economy, which is that small and medium business environment. And what we're seeing really is super interesting. The last report has showed that there are a lot of pressures, increasing pressures on small and medium businesses across those two countries. And we're seeing that obviously in things that you would expect. So we're seeing organisations call out interest rate payments increasing as being a concern. But we're also seeing a lot of the input costs also increase. Things like fuel and utilities such as electricity really starting to have an impact on just the cost of the day-to-day running and operational running of those businesses.
Okay, is it much different to 12 months ago?
Yeah, so the top three that we're seeing is 33% are saying that the cost of fuel is increasing and impacting them. We're seeing 32% saying that the cost of utilities is increasing and impacting them. We're seeing 27% increasing year on year, saying that the cost of interest rates. What the impact of that, though, is in terms of the statistics, we're seeing that 34% of the surveyed small and medium businesses are saying that revenue is down year on year, and 38% of those are saying it's because of those economic conditions that they're experiencing in the market right now. So it's having a pretty significant impact.
Okay, what about demand? So you're saying revenue's down. Customers are feeling it too, I presume, then?
Yeah, so what's interesting is what then happens to those small businesses. If you think about small businesses have got increased costs, what's the pressure and how do they kind of deal with that? One of the things that we're seeing is that those small businesses is now, they're doing one of two or three things. They're either passing on that cost to their customers through increased price, but they're also in many cases deciding to not pay themselves, which is obviously a significant impact. Many small businesses start up a business, they've got a dream, a passion, a vision. They leave a job that they may have had and they start up their dream and they invest their own money in their own business. Not paying themselves an income can have dramatic impacts. And somewhat counterintuitively, what's interesting about that is that the underlying business could have been very successful and would have been a great business, but the impact of not being able to pay themselves means that in some cases they're closing those businesses to go back to find employment and income elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, the point is it's not sustainable. You can take a haircut on your pay, but only for a while. And then the same, if I read the report rightly, there are also profit margins are being squeezed there. And so people are taking in lower profits. All that sounds sensible, but that can only last a certain amount of time.
Exactly. And so what has to happen is that those businesses need to drive themselves to be more efficient. They need to drive increased demand. They need to increase their revenues or they need to decrease their costs. And that's what effectively this report is saying is that the businesses that have invested in things like digital technology to help them become more efficient. We know for a fact that organizations that implement technology such as MYOB using a business management platform that ultimately removes repetitive tasks and admin and burden. We use this great example of a dance teacher. Dance teachers love to teach dance. That's what they do. What they don't like doing is the Friday night invoicing run of emailing all the parents and sending out invoices and then chasing the money to get it back into the bank account and the difficulties of managing that cash flow. What they want to do is teach dance. That's what they love doing. Yep. If you think about that as an example, they have to make themselves more efficient. So anything that they can pull into their business around, in this case, the example that we're giving is technology that can help automate the invoice flow, that can help automate the chasing of those payments, that can help automate the ability for them to kind of add or remove those repetitive tasks from their business, frees them up to do more of what they want to do, which is get out there and teach or get out there and find more customers. And so we're seeing as an example that organizations that have implemented those kinds of technologies see on average a saving of 2 to 4 hours a week of administrative burden. That adds up to 2 working days a month. And if you think about small businesses having 2 more days a month to focus on demand generation or reducing cost in other areas, that's a pretty significant impact.
Stay with me, Paul. We'll be back in a minute. My guest this morning is Paul Robson, CEO of MYOB. Is it just that people kind of get into a bit of a trend of running their business in a certain way and it's too busy to kind of look beyond what they're doing? Maybe if they step back for a bit and kind of give themselves time to think about technology, to think about efficiencies, you can make a big difference in the future.
Yeah, I mean, Sean, we're definitely seeing that. One of the things that it's interesting to see is that small businesses that have started up in the last 12 months are more optimistic. So that's really promising. Now, you would say that small businesses that have started up recently should be more optimistic because they're driving into a new startup, they're super excited and they're engaged. But what we are seeing is that startups in more recent times, so in the last year or two, are implementing digital technology to help them. So we're seeing that. So to directly answer your question, it's probably best to look at the number of organizations that exist in this environment, so small and medium businesses, that are not using technology to help remove those administrative burdens and are impacting their business. 1 in 3 Australian businesses are currently making important decisions without the full visibility or a clear picture of their business. 50% are wasting their time on manual tasks. So just to give you some example, at the moment, the report says that about 50% are not using a digital accounting solution. 63% are not using technology to help manage finances. And we know that cash flow is king when it comes to success or failure of a small business, in particular in the first 2 to 3 years. 74% are not using any technology for project management, 75% for employee management, and 79% are not using any technology for their sales and marketing activities, the very factors that drive demand and help you increase your revenue. So we are seeing the businesses right now that are not implementing technology are being impacted. The newer ones that are significantly more optimistic about the future.
There's some low-hanging fruit in what you just said, just astounding. I mean, in terms of people management, basically you're saying 4 in 5 don't use a technology system. Just keeping control of costs and things like that. Like, surely everyone should be using one.
Well, certainly that's our view. We believe that digital technology is an enabler. But it's true. I mean, if you think, Sean, that in many cases, a small business startup may start using a product like Excel, but very quickly the business may run away from them and they start to focus on, just dealing with the administrative burden. I spend countless hours out talking to our customers, and it's just really great experiences talking to everything from someone who started up a services business, maybe as an architect or a lawyer, through to someone who started up a lawn mowing business or a dog grooming business. And it's amazing that there's a recurring theme that is they have a vision, a passion, they execute on the vision and passion, but they get caught up in this administrative burden. And the number one thing that I hear is, I spend my nights and weekends just dealing with the administrational running of my company, of my business and my dream. And you add on to that the macro piece that we're seeing now, which is rising interest rates, cost of doing business, utilities increasing. It's putting a lot of pressure. And certainly from the view that we have, we look at that and say, there's one really easy way to remove that pressure. You can invest in digital technology that can give you back that time, that can take away those administrative burdens. So certainly our belief is that digital technology and investment in that makes a material difference to the success of small and medium businesses.
Paul Robson, you've been CEO of MYOB since May last year, I think. Have you been impressed by what you've seen with the Australian SME market?
I tell you one thing that is just amazing, Sean, is just how much entrepreneurial spirit exists in this country, and it's just awesome. Again, I just mentioned some of those examples, but getting out there and just speaking to people, you're talking to individuals that are taking a huge risk, right? In many cases, they're leaving a job that they had that had somewhat of consistent income to it. They may have been working for a larger business or what have you. But now what they're doing is they're jumping in with this passion into this dream. And so hearing about those stories is amazing. On the flip side of it, we also spend a lot of time talking to customers that are having a hard time right now, that are struggling with demand, struggling with the pressures in the environment. And so what I would say is we're seeing a lot of resiliency. We're seeing a lot of organizations asking for help. how do I get more engaged? We're seeing a lot of organizations engaging on training, on digitization. I'm super excited. As a son of a small business owner, a grandson of a small business owner, my wife has run a number of small businesses. I get the challenges. I've worked in small business myself. It's a lifestyle. It's what you do day in, day out. And that's why I love MYOB. From what we do, our mission has always been to help small and medium businesses start, survive, and ultimately succeed. That's a mission and a purpose that really resonates to me. It resonates with our team. And so being able to just be part of that journey and being someone that can help small businesses succeed, it's really valuable. Very much enjoying the role.
Fantastic. Paul, thank you for talking to Fear and Greed.
Sean, thank you so much for having us.
That was Paul Robson, CEO of MYOB, which is a great supporter of this podcast. This is the Fear and Greed Daily Interview. Join us every morning for the full episode of Fear and Greed, Australia's most popular business podcast. I'm Sean Aylmer. Enjoy your day.